Good evening, I'm Julia.
And I'm Annie.
The holiday season has officially started, and we all know what that means.
Shelling out $11 to see a movie sounds like a good idea again.
So lease your limbs for your bag of popcorn.
The couch is going to the movies. We're kicking off the night by telling you that if you haven't seen Skyfall yet, you're missing out. And here's why.
I know it's early, but I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that Skyfall is the sexiest movie of the holiday season.
It's an odd thing to say because for a Bond movie, it doesn't actually have that much sex.
But visually, this movie is stunning. The soundtrack is very Bond and very sexy, and dear God, that Aston Martin.
And Daniel Craig's not bad either.
The cast on this film is incredible.
I mean, you've got some serious heavyweight actors. You've got Daniel Craig as Bond, who is fabulous and rugged. Judi Dench.
Ralph Fiennes.
Ben Whishaw as the new Q, which is wonderful.
He has one really central scene and he just completely blows it away. Just the chemistry between him and Daniel Craig and the way he delivers, he does a great job.
He's so delightfully British.
And of course, how can we forget Javier Bardem as the villain? Delightfully insane performance.
Very Moriarty-esque.
You could tell that Javier Bardem was having a lot of fun playing this character. And that's the kind of filmmaking that we like to see, where the people involved in making it are clearly having a great time. This is not just an action movie. This is really a filmmaker's film.
And an English major's film too. Because you've got so many layers. There are so many layers. It makes me so happy. It's the kind of movie that I know I'm gonna have to go back and watch again because I didn't catch everything the first time. It brings back some of the old Bond.
There are just some elements of each scene that you're like, this is Bond. This is classic Bond. Much more so than Quantum of Solace was.
Even more so than Casino Royale was. And in a lot of ways, it's harking back to that earlier Bond. Not in a cheesy way, in a kind of a nice sort of self-aware way where they're saying, this is a little dated, but here's why it's still relevant. And that's kind of the theme of the movies, this sort of resurrection theme which comes back again and again.
The storyline is so rich in detail and just little nuances for every character, just really great storytelling. The Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy ended in 2007, and 5 years seemed like a ridiculously short amount of time to reboot the franchise, leaving most of us wondering,
why are there two of these? When the original Spider-Man movie came out in 2002, everyone was blown away by the web-slinging action. Unsurprisingly, that hasn't held up too well.
And it's kind of unfair to compare the two in this case because technology moves so quickly, and even in 5 years, it's gotten better by leaps and bounds. The original Spider-Man movie had a very campy superhero comic book feel. The Amazing Spider-Man, it's very similar to the reboot they did with Batman. The Dark Knight, it was a much grittier, much more realistic look, and even though you still have some camp elements to The Amazing Spider-Man, it's a much darker film than the original Spider-Man movies were.
Amazing Spider-Man is a movie first, whereas the original Spider-Man feels like it's trying to be a comic.
In that same vein, the original Spider-Man movie had a very iconic cast. You had these kind of over-the-top characters that were very easily identifiable as the Spider-Man characters. Rosemary Harris as Aunt May, J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, who I honestly don't think you can cast anyone but J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson.
And in the defense of The Amazing Spider-Man, they didn't even try. That being said, almost because they were so iconic, they were also inherently flat.
The characters in The Amazing Spider-Man have a lot more depth to them than in the original Spider-Man.
All the characters, not just Spider-Man. Flash, the bully, is a much more interesting and dynamic character.
Gwen Stacy was much more active and much more interesting to watch.
And her chemistry with Andrew Garfield is incredible.
I've heard a lot of people criticize the new Spider-Man movie because they don't feel that Andrew Garfield is nerdy enough to play Peter Parker.
I think he is, though. I mean, I think Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker is a geek, And Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker was a dweeb.
Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is a lot mopier, kind of whiny. Andrew Garfield's character is much angrier, much snarkier, and he drives the action forward a lot better than Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man did.
He's also more actively intelligent.
Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker had to actually build some kind of mechanism to allow him to shoot the webs out of his arm.
Tobey Maguire just gets it in this kind of Deus Ex Machina spider thing.
I also like the fact that you saw Peter Parker's heroic side before he got the Spider-Man powers in The Amazing Spider-Man. There's a scene in the very beginning where he steps in between Flash, the bully, picking on another kind of wimpier kid, and he gets his butt handed to him, basically. You see the seeds of a hero there. Realizing that we just criticized the original Spider-Man movie as being too comic booky, I still feel that you need to have close ties to the character in the comic book to satisfy the Spider-Man fans. Andrew Garfield's snark is a really important part of the Peter Parker character because it was a really important part of the Peter Parker character in the original comic book series. Now, I will admit, I do not read a lot of Spider-Man, but I have read Spider-Man, and he's snarky, he's funny, he plays with the villains that he's fighting. Tobey Maguire's character didn't quite have the same snark as Andrew Garfield's did.
Did they really need to make another Spider-Man movie? The original Sam Raimi movies were perfectly successful. So no, they didn't really need to make another one, but we're really glad they did. And if you're hanging on to the original movies out of some kind of twisted loyalty, I'm gonna really encourage you to give them an honest shot because I think you'll enjoy them better. And finally tonight, it's things we're excited about, the movie edition. We have a lot of things that we are extremely excited about. The opening date for The Hobbit is getting closer and closer, and however excited you think I am about this, I promise you, you have no idea.
Not to say that I'm not excited, but I am fully aware that Annie is probably 12 times more excited than I am. I think one of the things I'm most excited about is all of the new technology they're using to make this look as spectacular as possible. I definitely recommend trying to find a theater that is gonna do the 48 frames per second if you're into that kind of technology. I know I'm going to be seeing this in 3D as much as possible, and I don't say that about movies.
I will be leasing out my firstborn children to afford a ticket to go see this movie, but you can bet your butt I'm gonna go see it more than once.
On Christmas Day, they're releasing the filmed version of Les Mis, which I am so excited about. They are trying a new technique on this. If you saw the video from a couple weeks ago, they're actually singing everything live, which is not normally how musicals are made when they're made into movies.
So that could go either way, good or bad.
On the other hand, I am concerned because if any one of those cast members screws up my music, I will hate this movie forever. I'm really passionate about this show, guys. I'm sorry. So that's what we're excited about this week.
Join us again next week,
And until then,
keep watching.